Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
You like how official Trip makes it? You guys do the official countdown. Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome to Health or High Water. We're back at it. It's been a little hiatus, as always, but we hope you guys are doing fantastic. I'm your host, Brett Hutari, here at Ascend Performance Training, of course, and Mr. Trip Parks over there. What's up, Trip?
What's a crack looking?
What's going on? What's going on with you?
Oh, nothing, man. I'm just trying to survive the heat. I don't have AC in the car right now, as you know. It's been a little sweaty, but we're but it's making us tougher. So we're
What's up, Lynn? How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we're so excited to have you on. Yeah, it's too hot out right now, but I'm not going to complain about it.
No.
But I want to so bad. So, Lynn, thanks for taking your time. Thanks for coming in today. Super glad. I want you to give a chance to introduce yourself. So, I'm going to butcher your last name. You got to say it.
That's okay.
Okay, Sustersic?
You got it.
Boom. Okay, and it's Slovenian?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So, give me a little background on your company. You're a registered dietitian, so we're going to have some crossover. We'll have a fun conversation about some food stuff. We can talk about training techniques and stuff like that. I want to learn a little bit more about your background and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, as said, I'm a registered dietitian. So my degrees and background are in nutrition and then exercise science. I currently work as a clinical dietitian, and then I own my business, Envision Sports Fuel. So Envision Sports Fuel is more of a sports nutrition geared business. However, I do have that clinical background where I can take clients that do maybe have like a clinical issue going on and, you know, they're exercising, and I want to try and bridge that gap. So really my business is for like anybody that ranges from, you know, a recreational athlete to, you know, a pro. So I offer 2 levels of nutrition coaching. And then I offer custom programming as well and education. And then I just launched a more longer-term education program that really gives an extensive background into, you know, sports science and nutrition to let people gain like a more like expert level background for that. So it really dives into, you know, macros, micros, hydration, you know, endurance and resistance training, you know, what metabolic systems are used for both, supplements a little bit. It allows like trainers to get some CE credits as well too. So I try to find a little product and something for everybody.
Yeah. Is there a part that, since you do the clinical stuff and the sports performance stuff, is there a part that you do more of or that you enjoy more or you find more value in? Or is it just, hey, whatever comes to me, I'm doing?
Yeah, so I've done a little bit in the fighting like industry a little bit. So working with Muay Thai and MMA, and I really enjoy that. You know, it's a weight class sport where nutrition and the way that you go about it and achieving that weight class is super critical. And you know, in these sports too, I find it really interesting because you know you could be like a 6'2" athlete and then go to like a 145 like weight class versus someone that's, you know, 5'8" can also match 145. You know, their whole structure is going to be completely different. And, you know, they're implementing different fighting styles, like particularly in MMA, and the way that they're going to go about like their cut is going to be completely different. And that industry lacks like nutrition experts in that field too, to actually get them to achieve that weight class properly. So that's like something that I found like really interesting to dive into. So I've really enjoyed working with my clients there. But, you know, I also have some clients that, you know, are obese and they do have a lot of weight loss to go. And, you know, some of these clients that I have, like, I really like to prioritize food freedom and teach people, like, you know, you can achieve goals without it being so incredibly hard. You know, I've had like clients where, you know, they're well over 300 pounds and they're eating 1,200 calories and they're restricting like carbohydrates, and they're like, I feel like I'm trying everything. And I'm like, you know, giving yourself some more liberation can actually make you progress. Mm-hmm. And it's been really rewarding to see that for those clients.
So you're getting kind of a lot of different sides of, I think sometimes dietitians or, you know, nutritionists will get one sort of thing, like they're always working with IBS or some, you feel like you have a well-rounded.
Yeah. So, I mean, the point is that I'd like them to engage in exercise, but I do have like a pretty strong clinical background too. So, I have the ability to take clients that maybe they have type 1 diabetes or they struggle with high blood pressure or, they have like POTS or autoimmune issues. And I'm like, can actually take a look at their labs. My platforms are HIPAA compliant. I have the ability to do telehealth and, I can super bill for certain insurances too. So I'm trying to attract that like clientele as well where, hey, like I can take you. And then if you're engaging in exercise, I can help you in that realm too.
Mm-hmm. You have a master's in science, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. That's awesome. From what school?
It was an online program with Concordia University, Chicago.
Heck yeah.
A lot of papers. A lot of papers.
A lot of homework.
I'm glad to be done with that. I would rather take an exam than write a paper.
Oh my god.
They'd be like 15-page papers.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you need a certain attention span to
definitely not that person.
So you're working with MMA and Muay Thai fighters.
That's awesome, by the way.
I agree totally with you. I think that's underrepresented for sure. I mean, and it makes sense because it's a weight class sport. Mm-hmm. And Denver is like a hub.
Yeah, which is a big reason why I kind of went after that realm too, because I saw a gap and I knew that Denver was huge for it too. Mm-hmm. And you see like some fighters where they don't get their contracts renewed because they can't make their weight class.
Yeah.
And it's, or they fight like shit because they didn't go about their cut properly or they did it like way too close to the weigh-in.
Yeah. You work with kids too? Ever?
So the youngest that I would take would be like 13 and they do have to have parental like signature like on there to work with them. I don't specialize in pediatrics, so it would really depend on what the goal is. If they're, if it's just for sports performance, sure, but I'm not going to take like a kid that has, big clinical issues going on. That's outside my realm, and I'm not going to pretend like I can handle that.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of parents out there that. So I'm a baseball instructor over at Legends Baseball Academy.
It's awesome.
And there's a lot of parents that they come to me time and time again. They're like, "Hey, we're eating like crap," and they want nutrition not only for them or for their child, but they're like, "Can you have an intervention with our family?"
Yeah.
Is that something like what are your thoughts on that?
I can definitely do that. Yeah. Again, like I offer a custom programming too. So if that were to be like, a group like session with like parents, that's something that can be there. Or even just like the education, program. I call it like a boot camp to kind of fit it in with the whole training aspect. But yeah, I think like, kids also mimic their parents.
Yeah.
Not to, shit on like parents or anything.
I mean,
but kids
for sure.
They're going to eat what their parents provide for them.
Right.
So I think, a lot of it, even though it's for the kids, if you train an adult how to eat properly, they're going to implement that for their kids as well. Kids and adults really aren't that far off from what recommendations are. It's just that you have to support kids with growth.
Like, give me an example of what you mean by that.
Well, for example, like kids need more like calcium than adults do, for bone structure and development and growth. So you need to really prioritize, especially when they're younger, like, they're probably going to need to drink whole milk versus, as adults, we don't have those needs as much because our structure is already developed. So it's little things, but, in terms of eating from every food group, making sure that you're having carbs like within an hour before you go and work out, like making sure that you're getting enough protein, making your plates balanced. Those are things that cross over between both.
Yeah. Yeah, no, dude, you're totally right. The food system's kind of weird. And I think maybe you have some thoughts on it too. I think we're recovering in the last 15, 20 years from this like hyper processed food like mania.
Getting there.
Like the cereal mania. Like I used to have, I don't know about you, Trip, but I used to have 3 bowls of cereal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's all I had as a kid.
I'm going to tell you how bad it was at the house. I only had it once, but my mom was cool with putting sugar, like freeform sugar on top of the already sugar cereal.
Yeah. My mom used to do that with strawberries.
I thought that was normal.
Love my mom. But yeah,
Is that not normal?
that's how I would eat them.
That's how I ate it.
I mean, everything in moderation's fine. Like if you're having, sugary cereal for every single meal every day, then I'm going to say like, hey, but if you're doing it every once in a while, like, no, I don't care if you put sugar on your cereal. Some of my clients, it's funny because they'll get like scared to tell me that. They'll be like, I had a Coors Light this weekend. And I'm like, so did I.
Out.
Like, no, I'm not going to yell at you.
It's like confession, like, Father, for I have sinned. It's like, no, you just had a Hershey bar. Chill out.
I know. I'm like kind of gassed up because I'm like, you fear me. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want you to feel that way. Like, no, it's not going to make a difference. Like, live your life. It's how you make things consistent.
Yeah, balancing. So do you think then it's a dysfunction? Because you mentioned a couple things about balancing your plate out. Sometimes making it colorful helps, because I gotta have some veggies, carbs, fats, proteins, eat more whole grains, things like that. So then with your clients or things you've seen, do you feel like it's some sort of like eating, not eating disorder, but some sort of like dysfunction with understand? It's more of like an education thing for you then to like, hey, here's how you should eat. Like, I guess my question in a long way is like, have most people then that you've seen just not been educated on?
I think, fad diets are a huge thing. Yeah. And I think that people want a quick fix. So, when a supplement comes out, they're like, this is going to cure all my problems.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen. Progress is gradual and it's slow. Yes, I know that's annoying and it's painful, but that's how you get the results. And again, like being flexible with yourself, like, allowing for alcohol and allowing for sweets and allowing yourself to go out to eat every once in a while, that's going to allow you to maintain this long term so that you don't get frustrated and stressed and think of yourself as a failure and give up. That's not what health is. And I do think I have like some clients that underate too. So I really try and teach people like food is not your enemy. Food is fuel. Your car can't go anywhere without gas. You can't do anything. And sometimes, people end up losing weight by eating more, and I really, when I get a client, like especially where weight loss is their main goal, a lot of the time, like I don't even target like macros or calories, like, I meant calories. Like at the beginning, I'm like, let's start with making your plates more balanced. Let's start with getting more fiber and protein in there because their appetite automatically starts to change like based off of those key things and they start to feel better. I'm like, well, when you're eating more, you have the energy to go and exercise. And when you have the energy to go and exercise, you burn calories. So I think teaching people like, food is not fattening. It's your weight is made up of a plethora of different things. So I think that's been like a key thing is like really teaching people, what purpose food serves, and that you really need to manipulate your diet like in phases to achieve like results like this.
I love that. I love the way you said that. We're going to take a very short commercial break here. Have you ever felt overwhelmed trying to find the right senior living community? With so many care levels, options, and price points, it helps to have someone in your corner. That's where Above and Beyond Senior Living comes in. Colorado's only senior placement team with hands-on administrative experience across assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing communities. Their expert guidance is completely free to you. With over 75 years of combined experience, the team has helped thousands of seniors find the right fit, and they bring unmatched professional credentials you won't find anywhere else. They also offer a nationally recognized dementia certification course for those wanting to deepen their understanding of dementia care. Visit aboveandbeyondseniorliving.com or call 720-677-5580 to learn more. You can also follow them on Facebook at Above and Beyond Senior Living. When it's time to make that transition, let the experts guide you, saving time, stress, and money. Thanks to Above and Beyond for sponsoring this episode. Now, let's get back to the show.
All right. Well, so we had a little conversation. I just finished a book called The Magic Pill, and it talks about GLP-1, right? And we had a little conversation before this. It's kind of a hot button topic for a lot of people. Have had clients on and off it before. What's your take on those kind of things? On this new kind of medication, And what do you think it works? Like, what's your take here?
Yeah, so GLP-1, essentially how it works is it's made for people that, have a BMI above 27 and a clinical issue, or, they have documented insulin resistance, they've trialed diet and exercise and, have failed to do so. There's definitely people out there that benefit from these drugs. However, I do think that there are people out there getting these drugs that do not necessarily need them.
Here.
And, I personally think that, you can't be getting this online through a subscription or like at, a med spa. Like, that's just my personal take. Like, I really think that you need to be seeing like a specialist, like in endocrinology, to actually like identify, because I've had clients that are on weight loss drugs that didn't need them, and I've even posed the question, like, have you even tried diet and exercise before? No. And, end up taking them off of it. And people don't understand that, these drugs are hunger suppressors. And if you don't have a background in nutrition and you're not eating enough, you're not targeting fat loss. Like, you are targeting muscle loss, and that's not something that you want. So, you can lose like significant amounts of muscle mass if you're not eating enough protein, and, your bone density can decrease. People think that eating less, like, if you don't have an appetite whatsoever at all, that's not a good thing. You still need to eat on these drugs. You still have to hit a calorie mark. However, all it is it's putting you in a calorie deficit because you're not hungry. But you can put yourself in a calorie deficit and achieve the same mechanisms without it too. And, people, it's hard to come off the drug. It's not that you're going back to your baseline that you were at before. Your hunger hormones that are dysregulated. So people end up, craving more when they're off of it and getting more hungry. And, a lot of people think that that's a discipline, like mental thing, and it's really not. I teach people that, your body's a smart machine. It's almost very animalistic. When you are craving something, like, it's usually because you're lacking something and you got to figure out what it needs. Are there, outside like barriers and distractions that, bring in that maybe you overeat when you're not hungry? Yeah, of course. But, some of my clients that, may be restricted for a long time, or they came off like a weight loss drug and they're like, well, I feel like I'm like craving food, like extremely much, like, and all the time every day. And I'm like, yeah, because your hunger hormone is heightened, like, because of this behavior and because you were in a restriction for so long. Like, think of it like hibernation. Like, that's what your body thinks. It thinks you were starving, like, in a famine. So then when you get exposed to food, the smell of it, like, the taste of it, like, your body, like, wants to have more of it. It's just how humans and biology operates.
That's interesting. You brought up something about that I'd love for you to touch on quick, about losing weight by eating more. However you want to approach it, can you explain that to our listeners? Because what a common misconception. You talk to anybody who's overweight, a lot of people, and a lot of times they're eating less calories than, and they can't lose weight. Can you touch on any way you want to on why and how that's even possible?
Sure. So yes, to lose weight, you need to be in a calorie deficit, but your metabolism is made up of a couple things, right? So, your metabolism is like made up of what you burn at rest. You and I sitting here talking, breathing, just being alive burns calories. And that's called your resting energy. The food that you eat, that takes energy to digest it. So that's why, people, we preach, consume a high protein diet. Why? Because it takes the most energy to burn protein. So maintaining a high protein intake raises your energy level that you burn at rest. The type of exercise that you do. However, if you're not fed, you can't execute your exercises well. You're not going to burn as many calories in return. So it's made up of that. And, when people aren't eating enough, your body adapts. Like I said before, your body's a smart machine. So it thinks that you don't need as much energy when you're smaller and when you're consuming less calories. So that resting energy goes down. So let's say that, you are 160 pounds, like give or take, and your resting energy is, let's say, 2,000 calories. If you are not eating around 2,000 calories and you're eating below that, that resting energy is going to go down. And it also, too, a big thing that I teach my clients, you cannot build muscle and lose fat at the same time unless you're going through like newbie gains. That's why
Thank you for saying
bodybuilders
that.
bulk and cut.
God, thank you
It's
for
a
saying that.
system process.
Totally.
So when people like step on a body composition scale, they're like, oh, well, my muscle mass like percent went up. And I'm like, that's just a percent of your total weight. You're not actually building new muscle. However, when you do eat more and you are building muscle, there's a way to do it where you're limiting the fat gain. And then that resting energy is going to go up. So then when you do go through a cut, you can consume more and end up like losing calories. And I also like have just noticed too, like, anytime you kind of shock your body and do something different, it goes through an adjustment period, and like weight tends to fluctuate a lot during that period. So, with my clients, we usually go through phases. We'll go through a cut phase. When they start to stall out, we reverse diet them and gradually bring it back up. And we get them to their maintenance and keep them there for a little bit. And then I'm like, well, we can execute another phase of fat loss so much more effectively because now we refed you, like back up to that goal.
Mm-hmm. That was so well said. Thank you for that.
Thanks. I say it a
That
lot.
was I lobbed that up. That was perfectly said. I wish we had it on record.
Oh, wait.
If only.
That's crazy.
Where are you from?
I'm from Ohio. I'm from the Cleveland area.
Born and raised?
Yes, sir.
All right. Sports?
I play volleyball. I've been playing since I was 13. I still play now in my rec league, which is actually pretty competitive. I do enjoy that. Yeah, unfortunately, my high school was like one of those high schools where they're like, you can only play one sport and you need to be dedicated to it and you need to live and breathe volleyball or you're not going to make the team. So I probably would have played something else if I had that opportunity, but...
Yeah, it's so good for kids. I get that running that all the time. It's so good for kids to play a bunch of sports and then,
Yeah.
I guess maybe at some point.
Well, and then now here I am as an adult, and I'm like, I'm going to pick up a lacrosse league. I'm like, I'm going to play lacrosse.
Lacrosse. Have you ever played lacrosse before?
No.
My niece was trying to teach me, and I pretended like I knew what I was doing. And
Trying to cradle it and
Yeah,
stuff?
she's like, you're not even using the right hand.
I know. But, I mean, that's why I think, like, I wish that high schools, allowed a little bit more leeway to play multiple sports. Because here I am as an adult, and I'm like, I was suppressed in like high school and I didn't get to play anything else.
You're like, oh. What's going on over at Envision Sports Fuel? Are you taking on new clients? Are you maxed out? What's the next chapter look like for you?
Yeah, so I actually just changed up my programs a little bit. So I just launched the boot camp. So it's a 6-week, more intensive education program. We do coaching with it as well. It's really like the all-in-one like package. You're getting macro like friendly recipes that are easy that you can pick up at the grocery store. There's coaching involved. You're really getting into the nutrition education. So that's like a group session, and I accept like 15 people max in there. And I run it every 2 months. So the next one will be in July, I believe. And then I changed my custom education to also include programming too. So that can really be anything. You're going to have somebody that's not exactly going to fit the box of what you offer.
Yeah.
So for example, a MMA athlete where they're like, I need you to get me to my weight class and I don't care to learn anything. Like, I need you to tell me what to eat. Like, that's where that program comes in, or, contracting with, trainers or a gym. That's where that falls. I am taking new clients. So.
Well, that's Are you also a personal trainer, or do you dig into that?
It's a thought maybe down the line, but I kind of leave the personal trainers to do what they do, and I collab with them.
Love it.
But yeah, potentially down the line, but nutrition's sort of my niche.
I love it. It's a great niche to have because it's so needed. And I'm gonna throw this out there for you. You should think about working with kids athletes. There are so many out there that want this. I mean, even if it's just simple education stuff.
Yeah, and I can definitely do that. I'm definitely not opposed to it at all. I just again, if there's like a clinical issue going on, like I might have to refer out.
Yeah.
But
just like athletic performance.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, because a lot of the parents aren't eating correctly either. You know what I mean? And they're like, I don't know, maybe we'll give you a, bowl of cereal or something. They just don't know.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair though, too, like for the parents, the kids too, they're being bombarded with like companies that are trying to push processed food down their throat and being like no sugar, but it's full of aspartame, and like they're being marketed to in such like a negative way. So like, for them it's an uphill battle, but there's people like you out there that are trying to cut through the static and try to actually help.
Yeah, and also like I think a thing with like especially school-aged kids that's like a tough like hurdle to go through too is the school lunches that they serve, and being able to pick out.
What's the deal with school lunches? Like, come on, man. Is it that hard to make grilled chicken and rice? Like
in mass quantities, apparently.
God.
And, I especially with schools, too, it's like you got to take into consideration, they're producing, like, mass quantity that they have to do within a certain time frame. And then, of course, with nutrition comes, money. Money's huge. Eating healthy is expensive. Eating locally is expensive. The processed, cheap, like, food, that's going to have more of, like, your added, like, sugars and, seed oils and, different additives in there because it needs it to be preserved. I'm not knocking that these foods are, like, I don't like saying that any food is bad. But I think that anything in excess is bad. So, like, if you eat broccoli every single day and nothing else, that's not good. But it's not good if you do that with ice cream either. Ice cream's like nutrients. It's protein and it's, a carb and it has some fat in it. Like, it can serve a purpose. So that's, like, something that I like to kind of, like, repel out to is, like, I don't like people to cut out anything that they enjoy every once in a while.
Yeah, but you look at a Japanese high school meal versus an American high school meal, and you're like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, too, comes down to sustainability, like you said, which is kind of what you're talking about, is like, how can we find something that's sustainable? A lot of these bodybuilders or athletes, they'll have fad diets or diets in general that just aren't sustainable, right? So I was a wrestler in high school, so, apparently we learned later on that wasn't the right way to cut weight. We'd put on, jumpsuits and we're sweating. And there was actually one guy that would just sit in the corner and he would just flex his muscles like this and he would lose like a pound.
Yeah.
Yeah, not even making that up. You can lose a pound if you just flex your muscles. Probably why you lose weight stressing too, probably.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, like with weight class sports, like the healthiest way to do it is actually try and stick around your weight class, like, for as long as you possibly can. Yeah. And, like, if you, for example, like, get, like, a fight or, like, a comp and the exact, like, weigh-in, like, trying to space it out, like, at least a month, so that you're targeting some fat loss first and preserving that muscle, keeping your carbs high to train, and to get that benefit. And then you kind of start to go into, okay, we're going to cut out some salt. We're going to start to cut back on, creatine if you take that, things that, like, hold on to water. And then, if you're still over, like, 24 hours before your weigh-in, yeah, put on the jumpsuit and, like, go in the sauna. But, like, don't do the jumpsuit for days.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah, that's when people faint and throw up and have the worst, like, competition and performance that they possibly have. You want to...
Yeah.
Dehydration is the last thing you want to do. It's a last resort.
Totally, 100%. Trip, you're
No, just our finale for Gene Planet. This end of episode is brought to you by Gene Planet, the first step in unlocking the power of personalized health. At Ascend, we use Gene Planet's genetic testing to design fully customized wellness plans tailored to your body, your biology, and your goals. From fitness and nutrition to recovery and longevity, this science is backed in optimal optimization you can feel. Use code APT for 30% off. That's APT for 30% off. Your test today at geneplanet.com. Your DNA holds the map. Let us help you read it.
Oh, nice read, Trip.
Thank you, sir.
You heard that. Lynn, you guys, thank you so much for, first of all, thank you for taking your time. Can't tell you how much we appreciate it. You, anytime you want to come back, come on back. And for the listeners, thanks for joining us. You can find Lynn. So if you like some of the stuff that we were talking about today and you're interested in this boot camp, this 6-week boot camp, it looks like this July will be the next one open. They can contact you. You want to plug something where they can?
Yeah, so my website is envisionsportsfuel.com. And then you can also email me at envisionsportsfuel@gmail.com if you have any questions or concerns. Happy to set up like a free consultation call if you have any questions or concerns. You can also find me on Instagram too, Envision Sports Fuel, and DM me there.
And if you can't help them, you have a plethora of colleagues that you can direct them in the right spot.
Yep.
So, well, cool. Well, you guys, I hope you are staying cool out there if you're in Denver. And if you're elsewhere, I hope you're having a great time, great day. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Health or High Water. Take care and see you next time.